Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessica Flynn and I'm the owner and maker of Flynn Sisters Boutique. And today I'm going to be coating this tabletop for my studio with Flynn Sisters Artist Cure Epoxy and a bunch of glitter. I've done the same project on the channel a couple years ago, only that time around we went for like a Carrara marble type finish, which was great. And I absolutely loved how that turned out. But it's a little worse for the wear. It's a couple years old. The epoxy did hold up great against yellowing for as long as it could, but it was starting to turn, you could tell. And I had some staining on it from some alcohol inks. But overall, that epoxy performed very well. I used Alumilite's Amazing Clear Cast Plus formula, which is their anti-yellowing formula, and it performed great. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how my epoxy performs under similar circumstances. We are going to be using my Flynn Sisters Artist Cure resin today. And what we want to do first is prep our surface. So I just got a 60 grit sanding block. I'm going to lightly scuff up the top here. I'm not going to be epoxying the sides of this table today, so we only need to do the top. Once I was done sanding, I just cleaned up all the debris with some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. I also went over it a couple times with just a cheap tack cloth. I got this table from IKEA. It comes with 5 legs. It's about 80 inches by 22 inches in size. And I absolutely love the last one that I bought. It's perfect for my space. And I have mine resting on 2 drawers that I also got from IKEA. And I will link all of these down below if you want to recreate the same setup. It works really well for a narrow space, and it also holds all of my filming equipment. After I prep my table, I put down some drop cloth. This is just like medium grade plastic from Lowe's, I think. And make sure you do not skip this step, because in my experience, you will definitely get epoxy where it's not supposed to be. Next, I taped off the sides of my table with some thick painter's tape, and I did 2 lines of tape. The first line of tape sat flush with the corner of the table. The next line of tape that I went all the way around with had about a 1/4 inch up from the bottom to act as like a dam for the epoxy that we're going to be pouring. Next, I'm going to make sure that I have proper ventilation in my studio before I start to measure and mix my epoxy. I'm using my Vanaman standalone FUME extractor. I will link this down below. This does not require any kind of inline exhaust. It collects all your epoxy fumes and runs them through really high grade filters. Yes, it is a little bit pricey. However, if you work in a small space and you don't have the luxury of being able to install like a vent fan, or you don't have a lot of windows to create good air coming in and bad air going out, this can help you a lot. It's really cold in Washington right now, so I was unable to open my garage door to really ventilate this space without losing a lot of heat. And I wanted it to be at least 70 degrees in the studio while we were working. So I had that on, and I also had my PPE on. Ideally, we would be wearing like long sleeves and long pants. However, I was dripping sweat. It was like up to 75 degrees in there, and I was running around and doing a lot. So I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, so kill me. But the reason you want to wear long sleeve, long pants is so you don't get any of the epoxy on your skin. We're going to be mixing up an entire gallon of epoxy. I now sell 2-gallon kits. This again is our Artist Cure formula. So we're going to have plenty of pot life to work with here while we're trying to mix this large amount and coat this big old table. I did take my part A into the house prior to measuring and mixing, and I ran hot water in my utility sink over it for a little while just to get it nice and warmed up. And if you guys are ordering our epoxy in the winter time and you're getting those shipments in, be sure to bring that epoxy inside as quickly as possible and try to warm up part A with some hot water. That's going to get any of the cloudiness you might see out of that. It's totally fine to use if you see cloudiness. It's just your epoxy is getting really cold and it's facing a lot of temperature changes in shipment. And so we want to bring this up to a nice, cozy, warm temperature before we pour and mix it, because this is a very thick viscosity resin and it's going to take forever to mix if it's really cold. And we're going to get a lot of micro bubbles too, especially with this volume. I'm using buckets that I got from Walmart to measure out my epoxy. These are perfect because you can measure and mix all in the same bucket if you want to. However, if you're going to do a full gallon, I would recommend only measuring in these and then pouring it into a 2-gallon bucket so you don't accidentally overflow on the side. I got this 2-gallon bucket at Walmart as well. So I'm just going to pour that whole measured amount right into that 2-gallon bucket. So we did a 1/2 gallon of part B. We poured that first. Then we did a 1/2 gallon of part A. We poured that right over the top. And then we poured that into the 2-gallon bucket and we scraped all the excess with a gloved hand out of that measuring bucket. To mix up our epoxy, you want to get a epoxy mixer attachment for your drill. And this just fits into your drill. I don't know any of the fancy words for that. My husband did this for me. Okay, and you want to make sure that you're not really cranking that drill motor. You want to drill really slow. So try to keep the drill motor low and slow and steady. I'll show you guys how I like to hold it so it's a little more ergonomic and I can keep the speed controlled. It took me about 15 or 20 minutes to get it fully mixed, and I knew it was fully mixed because I didn't see any tracers or streaks coming from our mixing attachment. And now I'm ready to add my glitter. I'm using 2 full bottles of blue Platinum Shmedium cut and pink Platinum Shmedium cut. Both of these glitters are from itsprettypersonal.com, and we just got a discount code with them. Flynn10 will save you 10% on your order. And we're just going to pour that all in and start mixing with our mixing attachment and get that glitter nice and mixed in, being careful not to over mix your epoxy at this point. I could sit and watch this all day. I was absolutely mesmerized. I just absolutely love it. Guys, if you have a space heater too in your space, don't be afraid to kind of point the space heater at your bucket while you're mixing. That's going to help out as well. And once we got everything mixed up, I'm going to go over my table one more time with a piece of tack cloth, and then we're just going to go right for it and pour it all in. Now, I used an entire gallon for this glitter coat, but I don't think I needed that much. I also think I added a little bit too much glitter. However, I would rather have too much than not enough. So I don't know if I would have done this differently the second time around. I do know that I poured this on really thick. I maybe would have just done maybe just short of a gallon. I think this was 128 ounces. I would have maybe gone with 96 ounces for this first coat, and probably not an entire 2 bottles of glitter, maybe just half of each. Okay. The reason I say that is because this was really deep. My epoxy is not meant to be a pouring resin. It's a coating resin. And I had a really hard time fighting the micro bubbles with this because we also have all that glitter in there. So there's a lot of aeration happening, and it was tough, not gonna lie. So learn from my mistakes. You definitely don't need to do a full gallon for this coat. We could just do probably 96 ounces. You would have been okay. So once you get it poured on there though, we're just going to spread this out with a gloved hand, and I'm going to try and get this to all sides because the epoxy will self-level. However, these tables kind of bow a little bit even once you level them. It's been my experience that no matter how much you try to level this and get it completely flat, it's really tough. And it's really tough for the epoxy to fully spread itself out, especially if you didn't pour a full gallon. You will have to spread it out a bit, okay? So once we got it spread out and we've got it all to the edge, right up to the edge of that tape, where that dam of tape is really working overtime to keep all that epoxy in, okay? Again, I did not need to pour this much. I let this settle for about 5 minutes, and then I came in with my torch. Do not be afraid to really go at this with your propane torch. Keep the torch moving. Don't let it rest in any one spot for any period of time, because yes, you will scorch the epoxy. However, this epoxy can withstand very high temperatures. So you can just torch your little heart out on this, and it's going to be okay. So once I got that all done, I left the room. I cracked the door open as well, and I opened the garage door on the other side of this room. You can see it's 73 degrees in here with 31% humidity, which is absolutely ideal for what we're doing. After about 6 hours, I came back to remove the tape. I first removed the dam tape, and I realized that probably I could have waited a little longer, maybe closer to 7 to 8 hours, because you could see some of that epoxy was still spilling over the side. Additionally, that's the reason you don't want to pour too much, because it should just rest right up against that edge and not spill over. But because it was too much, a little bit did. Not a big deal. This is me at about the 20-hour mark of dry time doing the sanding along the edges just to smooth everything out that kind of got messed up from where I pulled the tape. Once I was done with the sanding along the edges, I just cleaned everything off with some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel, and then I wiped everything down again with some tack cloth to clear any debris. Next, I replaced all the tape just how I had it the first time, because we're going to put a final coat over the top of this. I did have to re-level the table, which was a huge pain in my butt once again. But now we're ready to go. We're ready to put on that final coat. So this time I only mixed 96 ounces, and that was enough to cover this whole table just fine. In fact, it was plenty. Before I poured my coat though, I wanted to put my logo here with one of my cute little stickers. I have a ton of these. If you guys ever see me at conventions, go to my table. I have endless stickers like this for free. I just put that in the corner, and then here we are with the 96 ounces. We're just going to let it rip. It was so satisfying seeing this clear coat go over that glitter coat, and you can see the violet hue in my epoxy. It was so shiny. It was so clear. I just could not get enough of it. And then like the sensory playground that was playing in this wet epoxy with my gloved hand is so much fun. If you guys ever get an opportunity to make one of these, highly recommend. It's really doable. It's really just a lot of prep work, and it's almost like making a really big tumbler, only it's not moving, so it's almost easier in that way. So that's cool. All right, so this coat will be treated just like the glitter coat. We're gonna let this sit for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna come back and just really torch the pea wadding out of this. Just really get it good. Don't be afraid. Really get all those bubbles and smooth out that coat. I also wanted to place this acrylic watermark that Bree Unique Creations made for me right in the spot that I would be able to get it on camera if I wanted to, but also have it out of the way if I don't want it getting in my space. All right, and this is me removing the tape before I was supposed to. I should have waited the full 8 hours. Because I didn't do that, I had some epoxy pouring off the side. I had to like scramble and try to pick up with a popsicle stick. It wasn't that bad because the epoxy was mostly set up, but it was enough to where it would drip down like that. I thought I was in the clear, but then I woke up to my table looking like this, and I started to cry, but I was able to fix it. Just torch it really quick. Don't do this if you're not within the 24-hour mark. So at this point, My table had been drying for about 20 hours. The epoxy was still malleable enough to where I could heat it up and scrape off that excess epoxy with a, craft knife or a scraper. And then anything that was still rough, I just went back over it with my torch and it smoothed it out and restored the gloss. So you could see here how well that rework worked. Thank goodness, because I was devastated. I thought I ruined my table, but I didn't. Anyway, here we are 24 hours later. It's fully dry. It's nice and hard enough that I could put all of my studio equipment back on it. But look at how gorgeous. The glitter, the shine, the sparkle, the beautiful violet hue that my epoxy gives off. Let me have a moment. I am so proud to see my product on such a big project like this, and it performed beautifully. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. If you're going to make one, this is so easy to do. All my epoxy is 30% off this weekend on a flash sale. Today is the last day. So hurry up if you want to pick yourself up a 2-gallon kit and coat your craft room table. Let me know. If you liked our video, please be sure to give us a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I upload new videos every week. I love you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. And a big thank you to all of our Flynn Sisters exclusive members. Thank you for your pledge. Your support means the world to our channel. If you love this video, you could check out our last video here. Also be sure to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and of course subscribe for all our new videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.